So a game I was really excited about this weekend was Texas traveling to Stillwater to take on Oklahoma State. Texas is a team that the week prior had a close win against Iowa State, a team that may not be ranked but features a really strong defense, and because of that, I was interested to see what the Horns would look like going on the road, taking on a ranked opponent that features a veteran quarterback. Fast forward to now, and it's Oklahoma State that gets a massive redemption win, and today we need to talk about the Texas Longhorns because you're going to lose games in college football. This much is known, but it's how Texas lost this game that makes it so heartbreaking. And on top of that, we have got to talk about a glaring issue with Steve Sarkisian that if it isn't fixed, he's going to have next to an impossible time trying to get Texas back on track. Before we break all this down, though, y'all know the drill. I've got to hear from you. Hop down to the comments. Give me a Y for yes or an N for no. Are you surprised at how Texas looked in this game? Let me know what you're thinking. If you're new to the channel, be sure to subscribe. Hit that bell notification as I do constant college football content. You don't want to miss any of it, and if you enjoyed this content, be sure to like and comment down below, as those interactions may seem small, but they truly are massive to content creators such as myself. But having said all that, let's jump right into this. And this was an exciting game. It had its back and forth, and Oklahoma State never quit because Texas led at halftime and through the third quarter. But Spencer Sanders, being a veteran presence, showed you why if your quarterback has a lot of big game experience, you have a chance if you're a sound, competent college football team. And that's what Oklahoma State is. We need to give Gundy credit where credit is due. He seems to always have this team ready. They're a team that gets overlooked. Even I had picked Texas to win this game, and now I have to sit here and eat some crow, and all credit goes to Gundy and this staff. They continue to impress me, and they deserve the credit. But on the flip side, we need to talk about the Texas Longhorns, because there are several areas in this game that cause things to derail, and we need to go through them. First and foremost is the penalties. It's hard to win college football games. This much we know. It's very difficult to win college football games on the road against a ranked opponent if that ranked opponent has got a veteran quarterback. But it's next to impossible to win that same game on the road against a ranked opponent with a veteran quarterback if you're committing 14 penalties, because then you can't get out of your own way. Because unfortunately for the Texas Longhorns, opportunities presented themselves time and time again, but it seemed like every time the opportunities presented themselves, so too did the penalties. That's something that had to be killer for Texas to watch because they were taking themselves out of the game. And look, we need to give credit for Oklahoma State. Oklahoma State won this game, but it is very difficult to play a team of the caliber of Oklahoma State if you're also playing yourself. Because on Saturday, Texas was playing Oklahoma State and the Texas Longhorns. That's something that has to get cleaned up. I understand Texas is a young team. Young mistakes are bound to happen. Penalties can be indicative of young mistakes, but at the same time, 14 penalties is excessive for anybody, no matter the youth of your football team, and that's something we know Steve Sarkisian is going to look to get cleaned up. I'd be just shocked if that's a problem that continues to rear its head, because that's something you can fix. On top of that, the other area I found really surprising for Texas was their third down efficiency, where they went 3 of 17 on third down. Once again, kind of reinforcing this idea that you had opportunities time after time after time. You just weren't able to take advantage of the opportunities presented, whether that was through penalties or lack of execution. This was something that really reared its head in the game for the Texas Longhorns, and it really gets us into our third area. Quinn Ewers. Now, first and foremost, I do want to be fair here. One thing we do here on this show, one of the reasons we have so much fun, is I try and take an objective approach to everything. I try and look at all sides of the aisle so I can give you guys the most complete argument, the most complete theory and logic to the issues we're talking about that I can. And if we're being objectively fair here, the headline of young college quarterback struggles on the road in big game isn't exactly a novel headline. It's one we've seen before. It's one we will continue to see in college football. It's just to be expected. But whenever you go 19 of 49, it is something to take note of, especially when you've been flying so high through the previous weeks. Quinn Ewers is really taking college football by storm. And so seeing him have back-to-back human performances, I think a lot of people were surprised, but especially against Oklahoma State. Because against Iowa State, you can point to the fact that they have a great defense, a defense you're not going to see very often in the formations they use, the scheme they use, that 3-3-5. Campbell does that 3-3-5 as well as anybody in college football. That's why a few years ago. They did a little clinic down there at Iowa State. Defensive coordinators from around the nation went to learn from Matt Campbell and that defense. That's how sound it is. Very respected. I digress. It's one thing to have a game where you're struggling as a young quarterback against a top defense. It's another thing entirely when you're facing a defense that against the pass ranks 126th in the nation. That's a whole different story because Quinn Ewers' accuracy in this game was definitely compromised. He had so many overthrows when the opportunities presented themselves, whether they weren't able to take advantage through penalties or Quinn Ewers had a lack of execution, the play broke down, whatever happened. The end result is that the offense really struggled to get things going, and so too did the defense. But if we're looking at this, since we're talking about Quinn Ewers, this really reinforces the very last point I want to make. The point that I talked about in the intro where I said that if Steve Sarkisian can't fix this, he's going to have next to an impossible time getting Texas back to where they want to go. And I think problem number 3, the problem that Quinn Ewers had in this game, kind of is a great way to bridge into the fourth point. Because there's a quote about doing the same thing over and over and over again and expecting different results. Now, you all know the quote. I don't have to say it. But the reason I bring that up is because if you have a young quarterback that's visually struggling, that is not able to get in rhythm, no matter what you're calling for him, even when you're calling plays that are aimed to get him in rhythm and those aren't working, it's probably time to try something else. And I'm not advocating for benching Quinn Ewers. That's not my point here. My point here is that you have a running back room that is as dangerous as any running back room in the nation, and you averaged over 6 yards per carry. Bijan Robinson had another Bijan performance. Roschon Johnson was phenomenal. Instead of throwing the ball 49 times, missing 30 of them when your quarterback had a real hard time being accurate, I was surprised that Steve Sarkisian didn't try and run the ball more. But the reason why I said that's a great bridge into point number 4 is because there's one thing that's reared its ugly head with Steve Sarkisian time and time again. And that's the utter lack of adjustments we see from Steve Sarkisian during the course of the game. Because like I said, seeing the headline of young quarterback struggles in big game on the road, that's not a novel headline. It's one we've seen before. It's one we'll continue to see. That's just what college football is. However, what that headline does is shine light on a much more sinister reality that currently faces the Texas Longhorns football program. And that reality is this, that if you continue to lose the battle of adjustments, you will continue to lose football games. Because one of the most shocking stats I've seen comes from 24/7 Sports, where they took an in-depth look at Steve Sarkisian's young coaching career at the University of Texas, where they found that Sark has 6 losses so far, where the Texas Longhorns have lost the game after leading at halftime. 5 of those losses came when the Longhorns held a double-digit lead in the third quarter. Once again, paving the way to show us that Steve Sarkisian has an adjustment problem. Now, always, in the interest of objectivity, I try and give you arguments from all sides of the aisle. And the counterpoint to this is, well, at the University of Texas, he inherited something that required a lot of work. The memes about Texas being back and how much work they had to do to get there have been rampant for years now. And expecting Steve Sarkisian to come in here and just at the drop of a hat have everything fixed isn't exactly a realistic expectation. However, once again, in the interest of objectivity, this is not a problem that has relegated itself to the University of Texas for Steve Sarkisian. Though he's had 6 losses at Texas when leading at halftime, 5 when leading by double digits in the third quarter, if we look at before he was ever the head coach at Texas, halftime adjustments are something that's plagued Steve Sarkisian because he is 5-28 when he trails at halftime before he was ever the head coach at Texas. And I get it. There are going to be people that say, but Ty, it's tough to win a game when you trail at halftime. You're 100% right. And I am in no way, shape, or form sitting here saying, Sark, it's bad that you're not 28-5 when you're trailing at halftime. This, once again, shows us that Texas has an issue right now, and it's an adjustment issue. And yes, Texas is doing things to improve week by week, and we can see some of the improvements. But unless you're going to be able to fix the battle of adjustments and fix how you're able to call the game through the course of that said game, you're going to have a really tough time winning college football games. And Texas is going to have next to an impossible time ever being back. And that's exactly what the fans want. Look, I'm high on Steve Sarkisian. I think he's a brilliant offensive mind, and I'm not trying to pile on to the Texas Longhorns, nor am I trying to pile on to Steve Sarkisian. But at the same time, facts are facts, and I cannot ignore facts in the interest of feeling happy and feeling good. There's an issue right now with Steve Sarkisian and the Texas Longhorns. Is it one that I think they can correct? Yes, because when we look at Sark's opening sequences, they're brilliant. We know he's a brilliant offensive mind. But time and time again, we see Steve Sarkisian losing the battle of adjustment. So if you play Texas and you're able to get Sark off of his spot and force him to adjust, you have an incredible shot at winning that game, and that's something that's going to kill the Texas Longhorns if they don't fix it. Because of all that, I can't wait to hear from you. Hop down to the comments. Let me know what you're thinking about all this. I know there's a massive discussion to be had, one that you're not going to want to miss. Tune in this evening, 6 p.m. Central Standard Time, as we have our live stream to discuss this game and recap all of the crazy action from Week 8. Can't wait to see you there. That's it. See ya.